U.S. blames group of Iran-backed militias for deadly drone attack in Jordan as it weighs reprisals. South Africa alleges Israel is ignoring court ruling as more are killed in North Gaza. Israeli forces dressed as civilian women and medics kill 3 militants in a West Bank hospital. Today is Thursday, February 1st, 2024, and this is the Dunkley Report. The United States has attributed the drone attack that killed 3 U.S. service members in Jordan to the Islamic Resistance in Iraq, an umbrella group of Iran-backed militias that includes the militant group Kataib Hezbollah. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby says the U.S. believes the attack was planned, resourced, and facilitated by the group. The Sunday drone attack on a military base in Jordan killed the 3 troops and injured at least 40 others. Kirby said Wednesday that President Joe Biden will continue to weigh response options to the attack, but the first thing you see won't be the last thing. South Africa's foreign minister says Israel is ignoring the ruling by the United Nations top court last week, which ordered Israel to do all it can to prevent death by killing hundreds more civilians in a matter of days in Gaza. Gaza's health ministry says people are still being killed in fighting in the northern part of the territory, the initial target of Israel's ground offensive into the Gaza Strip. The Hamas-controlled Health Ministry says the latest deaths bring the Palestinian death toll from Israel's offensive to 26,900. Hamas October 7th attack in southern Israel that sparked the war killed 200 people, mostly civilians, and about 250 people were taken hostage. Israeli forces disguised as civilian women and medical workers stormed a hospital in the occupied West Bank and killed 3 Palestinian militants. Tuesday's dramatic raid underscored how deadly violence has spilled into the territory from the war in Gaza. The Palestinian Health Ministry says Israeli forces opened fire inside the wards of the Ibn Sina hospital in the town of Jenin. A hospital spokesperson says there was no exchange of fire, indicating it was a targeted killing. The military says the militants were using the hospital as a hideout without providing evidence. It has alleged that one of those targeted in the raid transferred weapons and ammunition to others for a planned attack. Former Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan has been found guilty of corruption and sentenced to 14 years. Wednesday's ruling was yet another blow to the imprisoned populist leader, days before his political movement attempts a return to power in parliamentary elections. It was his second conviction in as many days and the harshest yet, and was the latest episode in the long-running battle between the powerful military and civilian leaders in the troubled Western ally. Khan was accused of retaining and selling state gifts in violation of government rules when he was in power. In addition to his prison term, Khan was disqualified from holding any public office for 10 years. His lawyer dismissed the conviction as a violation of Khan's basic rights. Russia and Ukraine said they have exchanged about 200 prisoners of war, despite tensions stemming from last week's crash of a military transport plane that Moscow claimed was carrying Ukrainian POWs and was shot down by Kyiv's forces. After the January 24 crash of the Il-76 plane in Russia's Belgorod region near the border with Ukraine, Some Russian officials had publicly questioned the possibility of future POW exchanges. Russia's defense ministry said the countries exchanged 195 POWs each on Wednesday. After the statement was released, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said 207 Ukrainians were freed. There was no immediate explanation for the different figures. The United Nations top court has rejected large parts of a case filed by Ukraine, alleging that Russia bankrolled separatist rebels in the country's east a decade ago and has discriminated against Crimea's multi-ethnic community since its annexation of the peninsula. The International Court of Justice ruled Wednesday that Moscow violated articles of two treaties, one on terrorism financing and another on eradicating racial discrimination. But the court rejected far more of Kyiv's claims under the treaties. It rejected Ukraine's request for Moscow to pay reparations for attacks in eastern Ukraine blamed on pro-Russia Ukrainian rebels, including the July 17, 2014, downing of Malaysia Airlines Flight 17 that killed all 298 passengers and crew. President Vladimir Putin has vowed to drive Ukrainian forces back to reduce the threat of attacks on Russian territory as he met with activists running his campaign ahead of the March presidential election that he's all but certain to win. Asked Wednesday about plans for the military campaign in Ukraine, Putin said the line of contact needs to be pushed back to such a distance from our territory that will make it secure from shelling by Western-supplied long-range artillery. He also declared that Russian investigators concluded the Ukrainian military used U.S.-supplied Patriot missiles to shoot down a Russian plane over the Belgorod region on January 24th. The UK government has published the details of a deal that has broken Northern Ireland's political deadlock. The Democratic Unionist Party has boycotted Northern Ireland's government for almost 2 years in protest at post-Brexit trade rules. The agreement published Wednesday eliminates routine checks and paperwork for goods entering Northern Ireland from the rest of the UK. It also makes legal tweaks to reassure Unionists that Northern Ireland's position in the UK is secure. The legislation is likely to be sped through the UK Parliament on Thursday. The agreement should restore the regional government in Belfast after almost 2 years on ice, unless there is a major upset. Farmers are blocking more traffic arteries across Belgium and France as they seek to disrupt trade at major ports and other economic lifelines. They are also moving toward Brussels on Wednesday, on the eve of a major European Union summit, in a continued push for better prices for their produce and less bureaucracy in their work. The protests had an immediate impact. The European Commission announced plans to shield farmers from cheap exports from Ukraine during wartime and allow farmers to sidestep environmental rules. The plans still need to be approved by member states and Parliament, but they are a sudden and symbolic step forward. European farmers have been taking their anger to the streets before Thursday's European Union summit. Farmers are warning European Commission Ursula von der Leyen not to ignore their concerns for better prices and less bureaucracy. World War II had spread hunger on a bountiful continent. Western European leaders knew at the end of the war that it was vital to ensure farming became a profession, that stood at the cradle of what is now the EU. Agriculture was promoted and heavily subsidized to eradicate any thought of famine. But now that has all changed. Today's news was reported by the Associated Press. This has been the international news for Thursday, February 1st, 2024. Thanks again for joining us here at the Dunkley Report.